Djiby, you have to share this then with the people who are filmed. You have to send it to them, it's only fair.
Right.
That's a deal?
Okay. Now let me introduce you to Elodie, first speaker of the opposition team. Teacher, classmates, members of the proposition team and chairman, good afternoon. 20 years old, best age of life. Ladies and gentlemen, are you sure about that? Because I'm not. Are you really happy to be here? Will you tell me that being stuck on a chair, listening to us, while it's so sunny outside you could do anything but staying here, is the best? Is that how you imagined being 20 years old? I'm not so sure about that. What does it mean, best age, but not in a dictionary? Enjoying your life to the fullest? Skipping classes without being concerned whether you're defiant or not? Or even hanging around with your friends whenever you want and drinking whatever is the time in Paris cafe or wherever you want? For example, as Hemingway and the figures of the lost generation who lived each day as it comes. I know it looks very pleasant, but it's not the case, at least for people like us who has to work hard in life. Well, I'm here today to tell you that being 20 years old is not a good thing. And I'll begin by showing you that it was never the case. First of all, being 20 years old was always a hard time, whether it be for girls or boys. Indeed, for several centuries, girls were sent into convents in order to be well-mannered because people feared society.
Point of information, please.
No, thank you. And the people could lead the girls towards unconventional ways. The first and only worry and expectation parents had for their daughters was for them to get married as soon as possible to a good man, a conventional way to say a rich man. And above
Point of information, please.
yes,
Do you know any age when you don't have to do things you don't really want to because this is just how society works? Do you know any age when you don't have to follow the rules imposed by the society you live in?
every age, but at 20 you have even more pressure because you're in between freedom. You're not free from your parents. And above all, I've just said that they need to get married as soon as possible for the simple reason that a girl who was 20 got closer to the age when she was considered as an old woman. In Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen depicts you this state of mind through the character of Charlotte Lucas, who is in her 20s.
Point of information, please.
No, thank you. Who is in her 20s, a young lady, you would say. But she's considered to be too old to have a good and proper marriage.
Point of information, please.
Thank you. And because she's conscious of her situation, she accepts the first proposal that comes to her with Mr. Collins, an ugly man but of a good condition. The pressure of society on someone so young, to us, is definitely not something that allows you to enjoy your life to the fullest. And the basis of this weight may have changed today, but we're still under pressure on another level. And on this perspective again, an ancestral tradition, which was lost today, but existed since the Middle Age, and which shows you how girls were considered to be almost too old to have a good marriage, to climb the ladder of society, to gain respect from their parents and the others. This tradition is called the Catherinette, celebrated on November 25th. Today,
information, please.
yes.
Which society and century are you talking about?
I'm talking about Occidental European society, around between the 17th century to 19th century.
Okay.
But that's the point I'm talking about before to explain you today. So today it is just a day dedicated to fashion. However, most of the French people remember that on that day we celebrate unmarried and now single girls who are 25 years old and more. These girls wore a headgear, a sort of old hat, to show themselves to their best advantage in front of men. I mention this tradition because 5 years is nothing. Time goes by very fast, and girls were even more under pressure at 20, especially when they looked for a husband since their teenage years. And today there is also this pressure. Your parents, when you're 20 and you don't have a boyfriend, your parents ask, "You don't have a boyfriend yet?" And you say, "No." And your parents don't understand. As for boys, their expectations were different. They appeared to have more freedom, but it was not the case either. For centuries, men had to prepare for war, and even today in some countries, as South Korea, where they have to do a military service for 24 to 27 months in a row, depending on the army corps. Gentlemen, will you tell me that spending 2 years of your life completely cut off the world, especially cut off women, is the best? I don't think so. All of this to say that I'm convinced that 20 years old is the age of sacrifices, whether it be in the past or the present. It is the sacrifice of yourself. So now, I introduce you my fellow companions of the opposition team with Sui. We'll talk about the psychological side of this age, and as the last speaker, Djiby, who will give you social arguments to show you that 20 years old is not the best age. Thank you.
Okay, now let me introduce you to the second speaker of the proposition team, Dina.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear camera, lovely girls, Mrs. Chairman, members of the opposition team, teacher. Good afternoon. Being young, us, and you is very important these days. Modern culture worships it blindly. Being unconscious, taking unnecessary and uncautious risks. Playing music that loud so you can be noticed listening to it. All these behaviors are our society new witches. Youngsters are our society's lifeblood. And everybody steals our music, clothes, celebrity gossips, communication, and copy us. Middle-aged men ride skateboards and carry backpacks, and women dress to look like a short-skirted, top-shop 20-years-old girl. Being young is about finding our own way among society and peers within an outside world that both despises and desires us, censures but envies the way you, ladies and gentlemen, are. I'm here today to show you that youth is a moment when we get a lot of things for the first time. It's a time when we make a lot of friends, lots of them. High school and colleges are really places when you make new acquaintances and develop friendships. To someone who's growing up, friendship can be of an extreme importance, and to be a teenager means having all the freedom and time to make friends. This is because a little child has not the freedom to mix around so freely, and for adult he will be probably too busy and shy to really socialize and make some real friends. Yes, sometimes reckless behavior because of the impulsivity, violent emotions brings us joy and misery, both joy and misery. But this is the whole beauty of youth, a passion and maximalism. I want to show you that this is the best moment, and really it's the first time when we truly find ourselves. How? Please follow me, ladies and gentlemen. We start to make decisions, doing our own thing. We don't have nobody holding our hands anymore. No, thank you. And our decisions are taken into considerations, and we're starting to understand what we want in our life. For the first time, we got a lot of pressure, as Elodie said, but since everyone is vulnerable at this age, no one is spared of the possibility of getting hurt. And I guess this is just the part of growing up, and we learn from it. And such unpleasant experience may toughen us and prepare us for the real world, which is not always the bed of roses. And this is the experience, which is the name. No, thank you. Which is the name everyone gives to their mistakes. One day, ladies and gentlemen, I showed you that love was all we need. And even now, I think that your first crush is always hard to forget. It could be a bliss or a tragic mistake, but this risk is worth it, because maybe in the process you will learn how to trust someone, how to share, care, open in you something new, and open features of character in your friends. I'm sure as well, yes.
By making reference to being young equates unconsciousness. Do you really mean that being young is a little bit pessimistic dimension of human life?
No, I mean unconscious in a positive way. So you can do things and take not a heavy load of responsibilities when you're really old to make these things again. Thank you for your question. I'm sure that this is the best stage for traveling as well, because you're not overburdened with family. You'll be ready to lift your bag up to the 5-flight staircase of a cheap European hostel, and to climb every city's mountain with a view, instead of using the car that costs about the same as a low-cost airline ticket. And you definitely have more fun and parties. For the first time, you will discover the world from your own perspective. While exposing yourself to new places, people and cultures, it will awaken your sense of purpose. And learning the world will help you to determine what feels like you and what doesn't. Don't let the opportunity pass you. Explore the world while you're young, ladies and gentlemen. It promotes also independence. Catching flights, keeping track of passports, navigating foreign-speaking cities can force you to think out of the box and out of your feet and make decisions quickly. The same is with the first job experience. You will learn how to be independent by untangling from your mother's strings, and being away from your comfort zone really pushes you to think independently. This is also the first time when you're ready to try everything. Everything. How do you often hear that someone much older than you is complaining or commenting on how they should have done something that when they were younger? No one wants to be sitting in a rocking chair at the age of 80, wishing that they had done that trip, hooked up with that girl when they had the chance. Don't let someone or something stop you from it. The chance to experience the world now is greater than any excuse you can come up with. When a person gets older, he loses his motivation to be active in a society, explore more and experience things he has not experienced before. We soak everything like a sponge. Not a sponge bath, but a sponge. It makes us more interesting persons, and teenagers have often very receptive brains, so we can learn faster and better than others, and we need less time to acquire knowledge. The first time, it's not always friends, it's always about love and sex, and despite the lingering stereotype that teen sex is all about casual hooks up with no commitment, 75% of teen females report that the first time they had sex, they did with a steady boyfriend, fiancé, or husband. So when we are not children anymore, we engage in this relationship with responsibility. If not, this is also the best stage for making family, too, because your habits are not so tough and deep-rooted. You can change, you can be flexible, and sacrifice for the person you love more. Again, from a strictly biological perspective, it's also the best decade for babies. And moreover, after you will experience a second you with your child, because you will not be that old and be a kind of a friend for him. Remember, no matter how old you are, you can remember being young, mad and free. Being young, I insist. So in the end, I would like to say that, ladies and gentlemen, you're never too old to become younger. Why? Just because it was the best, certainly the best moment of your life. Many thanks for your attention.
Now let me introduce you to Sui, second speaker of the opposition team.
Dear teacher, chairman, proposition team and opposition team, and classmates, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you feel when you found that the free entrance for the museum is allowed for the people who is less than 20 years old? And how do you feel if the reduced rate of the train or airplane's ticket is allowed for the one who is younger than 20? Attention please for 20-year-old boys or girls who yells without considering that from now on I have more right. I am adult. I can vote, I can drive, I can buy alcohol legally and in generally. But consider well, you may forget the meaning that you have to have more responsibility. Simply think carefully and follow me. I will give you an assumption. Just an assumption, no big deal. As you know, the first condition of the permission to drive is age. When you are 15 and you drive a car. You drive a car illegally without permission and you crash into one woman who is eating sandwich on the footpath and she's died. You killed her. But of course your punishment is amnesty, which is lesser than normal because you are youth. You are just 15 years old. But if you are 20 and you drive the car legally with permission and you crash her, your punishment has to be proceed as it is without exception. Clearly you had better drive before you can without permission and you pay some fine to the police when he found you, or you can commit libel if you want. It's better than imprisonment unexpectedly. So which one do you really want? As Lala said, we believe that 20 years old age is the age of growing, grooming and starting the new things. On the other hand, is the most stressful part. The new responsibilities such as getting a car, university, job. I wonder in your deepest feeling if you really want to be to have more problem and have more responsibility. Although we all have to face because no one wants to be trapped in a quiet place of future. But the 20-year-old boy is considered as a man. He can claim that now he's grown up. But in real life, is he really grown up? Is it different to 19 or 21st? The word man can be more than word, but the question is when. When exact will he get grown up? When exact will he start to work and earn money? When exact will he settle to be a leader of family? Most of us can be the man of the age of 20, or if he does, the next question is, does he really want to be such a responsible adult at the age of 20? In comparison with the youth and adulthood, after retirement. When you think of your childhood, you were very naive, you played, you enjoy your life with your sibling day by day. There's mom and dad who feed and take care of you. You have nothing to worry about. Nothing. But at the age of 20, you have so much more burdens waiting on your head.
Please.
Half of it.
That was quite clear. It was really clear.
What about life after retirement? You are animal employer. You have done your business. You have earned money enough. You have succeeded in life. And you begin to spend your money that you have earned. You can enjoy traveling around the world. But traveling around the world is different to the Nala said. You can enjoy it well. No, you can enjoy it better while you still have burden. I don't think so. After retirement is better.
Point of information, please.
No, thank you. So you can keep admiring your children who are going to succeed in their life too. Your mission is complete. You can do whatever you want. This is the reason why Victor Hugo said, when glass is joined with wrinkles, it is adorable. There is an unspeakable dawn in happy old age. What about the young man who succeeds his life when he is 20? It's rare, but it exists. A 20 years old Thai businessman who earns 6 million euro per month. He's got everything he needs, but he said that he won't stop progressing at the age of 20. The age of 20 can be the best. He always believed that his future is going to brighter and better, not at 20. So clearly the best age of life is in 20. Thank you.
Now let me introduce you to Fatima, la speaker of the proposition team.
Beautiful young people, sweet chairman, lovely teacher, good afternoon. From 18 to 25 years old are the best years of anyone's life. Please look how beautiful you are. Teenagers are spotted, elders are wrinkled. 20 years old girls and boys are on every advertisement. They are fresh, taking care of their bodies. They are attractive. These people are full of hormones, and it's the best period of anyone's life to have this amazing feeling, love. Falling in love at 20 years old is like a birth. Falling in love at 40 years old is like a redemption to not end your life alone. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You are an exception. Sorry. The test of life, of joy, is different. How can anyone forget his first love? I remember my first love. I was 19 years old, and all I could remember is how cool, beautiful, happy we were. We were free, as Leila said. Yes?
Do you think being attractive is only a matter of appearance?
I'm dealing about the point of appearance, but my friends were dealing about freedom and other points, if you listen to them. I remember my first love, as I said, and we were free, young, beautiful. We were free, as you said, Leila. And I'm sure everyone remembered his first time. I mean, his or her first sex time. I agree, the first time is not the best. But remember the second, the third, the fourth, are each one better than the last one. until you get out of this 20 years old period. At that moment, your body is free and no one can deny it. Every 30 years old depressed woman remember her 23 years old partner when she was 20 years old and wish in her life to live this again. But what happens at 20 years old, stay at 20 years old. If some insane minds try to convince you about the uselessness of this period I'm talking about, ask them why cougar people exist. Well, please, let me do. Why do cougar men and women exist? I'm going to explain you this phenomenon.
Come on.
I'm going to take as an example a lady. A woman who has spent the best time of her life at 20 years old gets married at 30 to try to keep this feeling of love. At 40, she becomes wrinkled. At 45, her husband is tired and is not her as the partner she was when they were young. So,
Another question.
yes?
The woman you're talking about, is she concerned only about love in her life?
No, she's concerned more about sex performance, as I said. Yes. And so her husband is tired and not as performant as when we were young. So to keep this illusion of the feeling of having sex as when she was young, she takes as a partner 23 handsome, fresh men.
Yes.
But
She was looking at you.
so not to keep this illusion of this feeling, she created this illusion in her mind. But unfortunately, as I said, what happened at 20 years old, stay at 20 years old. At 20 years old, your body is on the top. You can spend your night dancing in a nightclub and be the very next day at 8 in class and ready for your public speaking speech. Is it possible when you are 40? Look how Madonna tried her best to look like a 40 years old girl. But even with all her money, she can't be what we are, young, wild, and free. All the surgery, the stimulating drinks won't give her back her 20 years old energy. We all know about the middle life crisis. We all know about the teenage crisis. But have you ever heard about the 20 years old crisis? As Nara said, in friendship, 20 years old is the best age. But even if you are hurt, disappointed sometimes, it's the age when you learn the best of life. The big issues of life, and as you have the best experiences. I'm 22 and I'm really happy. I'm free from everything. That's why I can defend and convince you today. This age is enough time to have shaken off the childhood naivety and the welcoming of teenage years without losing the energy and innocence and enthusiasm of youth. Innocence is not totally lost, and our sense of reality is mixed with a strong sense of hope, a can-do spirit, and a healthy belief in our talents and abilities, as the members of my team have clearly shown. Thank you. The 20th of anyone's life is the sex age, definitely. You are hitting, you are stride, you are much more confident than a teenager and more attractive than an elder. As George Bernard Shaw said, youth is a wonderful thing. What a crime to waste it on childhood. And finally, I will let you wonder about an issue. Why do 30 or 40 years old women fly when someone tells them you look like a 20 years old girl? Thank you for listening, and realize, ladies and gentlemen, that the best you can live in your life is now.
Lady Chair, by the way, we don't say point up, so you say
6:45 or 6 minutes 45. We don't say points in English. No. In French either.
No.
No. Huh?
Okay. Now let me introduce you to the last speaker of the opposition team, Djiby.
Okay, thank you for your round of applause. My beloved classmates, dear speaker, dear teacher, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to express my dissatisfaction and my disappointment about what I have already heard from the proposition team, because they put the cart before the horse. And I'm totally turned upside down and inside out. I'm a sociologist. I work for a private social office in Baghdad, Iraq. Our mission is to guide Iraqi young people who are heavily traumatized by the war. Most of them in their 20s came to see us because they feel desperate about their lives after the killing of their entire families and the bombing of their entire houses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's because I'm disappointed about the proposition team speeches that I want to shed light on today's motion. 20-year-old is the best age of life. A very nice and simple motion at first sight, but a very tricky and deceptive motion in reality. I think there are 4 key words in this motion. "20", which is a number, but also an acronym which stands for the transformation of weekends, into a narrow-minded treatment of youngsters. You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is quite frightening.
Point of information, please.
Wait. I'm coming. Right. Is an auxiliary, but also a word which gives a definition and a characteristic to someone or to something. The best, which is a superlative, but that considers a very specific thing that places you above in terms of quality. Life, the proposition team just take it from a temporal perspective. I think it's wrong and wrong again, because life goes beyond that. Life is not just time, not just love, not just traveling, but it also includes facts and deeds. It's true that life goes all the way from cradle to grave, but it also takes into account what you do during your lifetime. And that's the reason why you say you devote your life to justice, you devote your life to writing, you devote your life to peace, or even the golden age of somebody, or the golden age of something. So here, ladies and gentlemen, we are not focusing on time, but also on actions. And I understand.
Please.
I'm coming right. And I understand why the proposition team has been deceived and blindfolded before the motion. Come on.
Thinking, what do you actually need to realize the deed you're talking about? Don't you need time?
I'm not saying that we don't need time, but life also goes beyond time because you need facts and deeds in your life, right? My dear classmates, do you agree with the proposition to reduce your whole life to just weekends? Come on, talk to me! Do you agree with the proposition to reduce your whole time into weekends? Are you in favor of this narrow-minded vision of life? And if so, what about the action you did before 20? What about the actions you will do after 20 in the future? I think that the best age or the golden age of life can happen anytime in your lives. By the way, in the name of our beloved proposition team, I want to give you my apologies to all of you who haven't made it yet, to all those who keep going, to all those who have already spent a very nice childhood, and to all those who are still dreaming of a better future. Maybe the best age of your lives is in the future. You don't know. So excuse the proposition team for their twisted definition of your lives. Moreover, their definition of the quality of life is quite old-fashioned and echoes a 19th century vision of society, which I call neo-Marxism. This is still Marxism, but in a modern sense. The idea that advocates the stratification of society into classes. I think the only difference between Marxism and the proposition team viewpoint is that Marxism places emphasis on wealth to define society, wherever the proposition team insists on age to develop their vision of society. They present society as a composition of teenagers, the 20-year-old, the elderly. Such a definition means to widen the generation gap which already exists in our societies and which is liable to bring young people and elderly into a never-ending generation gap and generation conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not think as the proposition team do. We are still young, we have our future before us, and maybe the best age of our lives is in the future. Therefore, no way, no how, no the proposition team. Thank you for your attention.